You see, you know why is it that I'm actually going to ask questions from my discussions because it's not that I'm doubting. Most of the time, I mean, I see you, I'm not actually seeing you attending the live class. You know what I mean? Because I cannot see your pictures. So that's why. Because, looking into my experience, some students may log in and leave, so they may not be listening to my class. Anyway, most of the questions that I'm going to ask, I think you will be here, no? So that schedule you will be here, UMS, or you will be in records. I do not know. I'm still trying to find out what will the arrangement be. But the examination will be on 21st. I understand, and starting next week, we're not going to have classes because you're going to have a quiz. Yeah. So the quiz will be 10 items only. It will either be in the UMS or I don't know what will be the decisions of the college.
10 questions, right?
Yeah. What's that?
10 questions.
Only 10 questions. That's the thing. But the problem, this is actually my, this is also my dilemma sometimes, Better if you're going to have more questions because the chances are the students may actually get higher. 10 questions, these are quality questions. If you're going to miss it, you miss one, so 9 over 10. The percentage will be higher also. That usually is actually the problem if you're going to be given you see low number of questions. So
خلاص doctor, I have an idea. Make it 20 questions and each question half mark.
That's exactly the thing I'm thinking about that now. But anyway, so let's see. So if I'm going to come out with 10 quality questions, then that will be good also. That's why we are very careful in trying to place questions in the questionnaire, because really we would like to reflect that students understood, what we taught in the class. That's the only way. That's the only way we could actually measure. Yeah. So anyway, moving forward, so I repeat, I think you have already the coverage. The coverage will be lecture 1. I believe you have to study now. The lecture 1, that is on the introduction. And then, of course, your what psychology is, or your chapter 1 in your textbook. Okay? If you want, you can actually replay also the video that I have uploaded in the website. You can see it completely. I uploaded also our class last Wednesday. It's already up now, including the class today. I'm going to upload after finishing it. Anyway, moving forward, let's try to proceed. I actually start on perceptual development. Later on, we are going to look into a closer look into perceptual development when we are going to study the work of Piaget. All right, but anyway. So let's proceed and try to understand a little bit about this for now, in general concept. All right. So as I mentioned to you earlier, our 5 senses have been fully developed from the beginning. Okay. That means to say, inside the mother's womb, all our senses have been developed. They are fully functioning. They are functioning very well also. It's just that, of course, there will be limitation because, in the case of a sense of sight, there will be a limitation just because the entry of light. In sense of sight, we need light. But sense of hearing, definitely there is only a small barrier, and that is the skin between the mother and the environment. So most probably the child could easily hear also. That's the reason why, as evidences or as proofs of this, is that once that the baby is delivered, the first thing that they would actually look into would be the voice of the mother. They are going to pay attention or focus on into, because that is the voice that they could always hear from the beginning, or they will always hear it from the beginning, including the voice of the parent. That's the reason why, if you keep on talking to the child inside the mother's womb, so chances are the child, when they are already brought out, would always be recognizing your voices. That is the thing. So it will easily be creating a bond and relationship between you and the child. Newborn appear to prepare human voice, definitely just because they have been exposed to this, no? When you are talking to them. All right, they could hear it, including the conversation that you could actually have at home. By 6 months, infants can discriminate between any two basic sounds that's used in language. They will recognize that now. And moving forward, let's see. A number of reflexes also will be developed inside the mother's womb. These are all involuntary responses to stimuli. These are needed actually for the survival of the child. No, these are all elicited from the infants. Like for instance, infants blink their eyes when a light is shown. No, and other reflexes would always be developed inside the mother's womb, and it would be intensified when they are delivered, like is the case of extension of arms when infant feels a loss of support, particularly when they're growing already. The palmar reflex, when they are out already, this is the hand grasping. That's the reason why it's very easy. Actually, we love them. We like that, no? Because their hands are very soft. Then there is also rooting reflexes, no? This is rooting on the nipple of the mother, especially when you are actually providing milk, no? Rooting means turning towards object, brushing cheek, and attempts to suck. So if you are feeding the child using the bottle or the biological nipple, then you could always actually not directly place the nipple on the child's mouth. Instead, you're going to utilize the so-called rooting reflex. You place it here on this side, that's on the side of the cheek, then definitely the child will actually root to it, look for it, and attempt to suck. That's how they are actually surviving. That's they are actually, let's say, feeding themselves, okay? Now, the other one, of course, we have the motor reflex or response that is characterized by the spreading out of legs and arms, followed by the clasping of the arms, particularly when they are losing balance. This is true when they are actually growing up, no? From the period of 5 months to 6 months when they are trying to develop already their balance. So that's the motor reflex. These reactions during the first 3 months of existence may be provoked or induced by sudden noise, or maybe due to loss of balance, support, or equilibrium. Most of the time, actually, it goes up to 6 months or up to 9 months. No, so just an attempt to balance, just an attempt to secure themselves. Also, that is the meaning of motor reflex. No, so the hands would try to reach something, and the child would always spread their legs in order to spread or increase their base, letting them to balance themselves. No, that's how children would support themselves. All right, these are all going to be discussed as we go on in when we discuss the work of John Piaget. Anyway, moving forward, we have the social development. This is very crucial and this is very important among children. No, children need to grow socially as they develop. This is very important. No, do not shield your children from playing with playmates, with people in your community, because definitely children need to develop temperament. Children need to develop their emotions. Children need to develop the relationship the way they would actually relate. We do not want children who are antisocial, no? Sometimes the more we shield them, the more we are actually giving harm to them, just because we do not want them to be dirty, we do not want them to play with other children because they may get hurt. This is usually some of the things that we are thinking about. We are very overprotective to children, so we secure them at the secureness, at the security of our houses. We do not want them to play outside. We do not want them to play with dirt. We do not want them to play with sands. And we do not want them to communicate with other children around. So this is usually the problem. If that will be the case, you are very overprotective. We are very overprotective. We are not helping children. Instead, we are giving them harm. Always remember, temperament is developed during this development. No, during social development. Always take note, temperament refers to a child's characteristics mode. This is the sum total of emotion that they would have acquired and activity level. If you're going to connect this with the work of Sigmund Freud, as I mentioned earlier in our previous classes, he mentioned that the personality of the child could have been fixed at the age of 7. That is 0 to 7. It's very crucial where all the process of development could have been completed during this time, including social development. So the mode of the child could actually be fully developed during this time. If you're going to take that concept, then it's very crucial that we need our children to play around, to play with other kids, to get hurt. They should get hurt. They should get dirty because they should know how to feel. They should know how to feel disappointment. They should know how to feel anger. They should know how to feel joy. All these types of emotions must be developed because during this time, temperament of the children could actually be developed. That is the only time that you could actually touch base with your emotions. You see, imagine if you have not experienced this, what would happen is that when you will get old, you would not feel any emotion at all. Your affect will be affected, your mood will be affected, your temperament will be affected. And remember this, if everything is given to you with ease, when you are a child, the tendency is that when you are going to get old, you will be short-tempered. Because in reality in life, it's something like when you get old, you cannot get easily all the things that you want. See? So you could actually be short-tempered. You can easily get angry. So this is the thing. You should know. You should know how to touch base with your emotion. And that could actually start by exposing children to play with other children. They would fight. It's okay. They would actually shout. They would feel angry with one another. It's okay. So because that's a part of growing up. That's a part of social development. They're a part of forming human relationship. And of course, one way or another, as adults, we would play with them also. The problem is that adults at home would usually do not have time with children. This is the reality, and we don't play with them. We don't feel the happiness that they feel. You know, simple achievement that they would actually show to you sometimes we get disinterested. They are very interested. They are very interested to show that to us, but we are not interested. So there is a disparity. There is disconnect between the two of you. So what happens? You see? So something like there is a poor social development in this case. Okay. So moving forward, let us try to look into the qualifications and the qualities of children when they are born. There are children who are actually easy. There are children who are difficult to get. There are easy or just actually happy-go-lucky. So let us try to look at the statistics now. So when you are born, you could be classified as easy infant, difficult infant, or slow to warm up. Take a look at this. For easy infants, most of the time, they could always say your child can easily be kidnapped because the child has no barrier at all. They could go almost to anyone who will try to get them. So most of the children actually are born this way. Majority actually, and this comprises around 40% now of children who are born. They were very adaptable to new situations. All the time they will adapt. So if we try to get them, they will come to you. So that's the reason why among these children, you will always say, do not go with the strangers. You know, this will actually be not helping the child if you're going to say, don't go with the strangers. You see? Because you are actually trying to tell that the child will distrust people whom they do not know. So that will not be a good thing to tell a child, no? Now, they are also very predictable in the rhythmicity or schedule. So these children are very easy to please. You give them candy, they will come to you. You give them something that they want, they will come to you. They're very positive. They are always smiling. Anybody who actually tries to get them, they will smile, they will laugh, and they will come to you with no problem. They're very positive in their mode. They're very positive in their attitude, and most of the time, people tend to love them, to like them. No, that's around 40% of people who are born, of children who are born. Now, the opposite is the so-called difficult infants, around 10%, only a minuscule part of it. No, small part. They are intense in the reaction. They will not come to you easily. You have to fight in order to get them. They may not even go to the father or mother if they are not actually exposed to them all the time. No, it is very difficult. No, they are intense in the reactions. They are always negative, not very adaptable to new situations. They are always attached to their constant caregiver. They are slightly negative mode, or they are irregular. They have irregular body rhythms. It's very difficult to get them. It's very difficult for them to adapt, and it's very difficult to predict their behavior. You see, so chances are when you have children like this, they cannot go to anyone. You cannot get them. All right. Then the next classification would be slow to warm up infants, around 15%, a little bit higher. That means they are going to recognize you first, then after that, there is no reaction, negative or positive. They'll try to observe the surrounding. They'll try to observe people. Shall I go or not go? Then eventually they will decide to go. That is actually the meaning of slow to warm up infants. They initially withdraw when approached by someone, but will later warm up and go. And they have they are very slow to adapt to new situations. They try to study the environment, they try to study people who are trying to get them before they will adapt. That comprises around 15%. Most of the time, they can actually be easy in the long run. No? Then average infant, we call this as the common infants. Unpredictable, no? That comprise 35%. No? They did not fit in any of the above categories. Sometimes they are predictable, sometimes they are unpredictable. Sometimes they can easily be taken. Sometimes it's difficult to take them. You know, a combination of all these things, very difficult to predict. And that comprise around 35% of children. We have to recognize that. We will not compare, and we should not compare. The reason why we need to recognize this because we need to understand who our children will be, so that we'll be able to adjust, we will be able to adapt, we will be able to help them improve. Remember, during this time of social development, we are trying to develop their affect, we are trying to develop their emotion, we are trying to develop their temperament, we are trying to develop the relationship with people around them, human relations. So this is exactly the point. We should know if they are difficult, we should know if they are very easy, we should know if they are very slow to warm up. The thing is, we as people, as adults, need to recognize this in order to help them. As psychologists also, we need to do that. As dentists to be, you need to recognize the disease of your patient before you can do something. This is in similar way, no? We need to recognize the type of children that we have so that we can actually help our children. We cannot turn around the behavior and attitude, the emotion, and at the same time, the positivity of the child overnight. It must be a long process. We have to improve. In similar way, the reason why we should know our personalities just because we need to improve, and we would like to improve ourselves. That's the thing. Okay? So, another very important aspect of development is understanding the gender. You see, after social development, there is what we call as gender role development. This is actually true for children who are on toddler stage. No? Gender roles are our set of expectations about appropriate activities for male and female. So you see, during this time, the children will be able to understand their gender, their sexuality. But when they are born, they don't. The only thing that they have in mind would actually be how to survive, how to eat, how to sleep, how to grow when they are born. In fact, when they are born, they will not even recognize the colors that we paint in the room. The dress that they are actually wearing, they may not recognize that. During this time, that will be the time that they will be able to identify the roles. They will actually try to compare themselves, no? Including their anatomy, right? So research would actually show that even preschoolers believe that males and females have different characteristics. Definitely. During this time, specifically, male and female try to distinguish one another already. They are very different, way different. The roles also are assumed to be very different. You see, children who are female would play with dolls, and children who are actually male would play with guns, among others. So that will be the time when children are trying to identify their gender already. They will be able to recognize that they has this sexuality with them. That is the thing. We should actually be very careful. No, we should actually be teaching them about their gender, about what they have, because there will be a point that they're going to ask questions, and we need to explain that. We are capable of explaining that. We are not going to run away once the child will actually ask questions like this. You know, there are sensitive questions that need to be answered by you outright. Do not leave this hanging. All right? You know what I mean already. I will not tell you that question, but usually they will compare. Why is it that I have this and she does not have this? Along that line. Okay? All right. So that is on gender role development. The child will be able to identify their sexuality already. Children are supposed to be play, or female are supposed to play with dolls. They would always play with cooking. They would identify with the mothers. Boys would identify with the fathers, and they would do difficult activities. But eventually, as they grow, there will be some problem. There will be some transformation. Boys identify with the mother, and then girls identify with the mother. We are going to discuss more about this when we tackle the work of Sigmund Freud. There is a concept of what we call as Electra complex. There is also a phenomenon called Oedipus complex. These are all started and proposed by Sigmund Freud. Okay. Now, moving forward, let us try to look into the work of Jean Piaget, a very influential psychologist who developed the theory of cognitive development. He described children in different stages, particularly 4 stages. He gave this on how we develop our psychomotor and how we actually are trying to, or we try to develop our thinking aspects also in relation to the sense of the development of our sensory neurons, or sensory aspects and motor aspects of development. It was actually proposed by Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget is not a psychologist. All right, he is a writer, and he is a thinker. He is also a researcher, right? And he proposed this theory of cognitive development that psychology adapted because these are very useful theory. Until now, his theory would have guided so many psychologists, so many doctors, and so many nurses or medical practitioners, including teachers, right? He identified 4 stages that we have to look one by one. These are the following, the sensory motor stage, number 1. Number 2, the pre-operational stage. Number 3, the concrete operation stage. And number 4, formal operations. And these are in accordance with the age level that they may actually have or they may reach. Like for instance, in the case of sensory motor stage, this is from birth to 18 months or 1.5 years. Sometimes it goes up to 2 years. All right. So as I mentioned to you, there could be early development and there could be late development, no? So within 2 years, that is on the first stage, the sensory motor stage overlapping. No, it depends on how early or advanced the development will be. The next stage is otherwise known as pre-operational stage. This is from 2 to 7 or 8 years of age. So it depends, no? It starts with 2 to 7 years of age. All right? We'll look into the descriptions later on. The next stage is the concrete operation stage, no? From 7 or 8 to 12 years of age. So remember, they are already going to school already. They are on the elementary level. And the next stage is that the thinking is more formal. We call it as formal operations. That means to say this is from 12 years onwards. So let us try to look the description of every stage one by one. Sensory motor stage, as I mentioned to you, it will be from the time you were born up to 18 months, 1.5 years to 2 years. What do we have here? How do we describe the behavior of children in these states? Children think as a result of coordination of sensory input and motor responses. So this time, the different senses are actually very hyperactive. They think as a result of the reflections of their senses, no? Now, during this time, intelligence is not verbal. Actions will always speak during this time. And the way they react on certain situations is the way on how we are actually gauging their intelligence. You see? They will not speak. Because during this time, language is not yet developed. So we communicate with them, they communicate with us using language, using non-language or non-verbal, using actions. We ask them questions and they reply, then we are showing that we are very pleased and we are very happy. They are also very happy. That's how we communicate. Now, they are all, their expression will be more on symbolic because the child has not developed language yet during this time. It will always be non-verbal. When you're actually going to, how would you know that they follow command? When you ask them, come here, they'll come to you, they will crawl to you. Get that, they will get it. And then they will smile and they will be very happy, right? Something like, you see, when we are going to ask them to do something, they would actually beautifully doing it, no? And of course, in order to express our expression of, let's say, satisfactions, that we'd always smile, we would always kiss, we'd always show them something, non-verbal expression. We smile, we laugh. You see, that's how it is during this sensory stage. It's actually very prevalent. Everything is symbolic. Their language, their thinking is symbolic. Their intelligence is more on symbolic things, because language has not been fully developed during this stage. After that, when language is little by little developed, that is on pre-operational stage. This is from 2 to 7 years of age. The child is preparing to go to school. Now they would be able to understand color, recognize letters, recognize numbers. But they cannot multiply 1 times 1, 2 times 2. They may not do that. All right? But they can already, during this time, it is necessary for you to buy already some sort of shapes, because they will recognize that. But in sensory motor states, it will be very difficult. I'm telling you, it's useless to buy toys which are pertaining to that. So they may not adapt, they may not know. But once that they reach pre-operational stage, that will be the time that we are going to buy them letters. You know, sometimes in a toy store, there are toys that are actually letters. There are toys that are pertaining to shapes. During this time, you buy. No, because a lot of parents do not actually do that. They buy toys during the sensory motor states, stage one, and yet children may not use them. It may not be useful to them because they may not be able to recognize them. During this time, pre-operational stage, that will be the time. This is where thinkers can now symbolize or mentally represent their world. They will be able to describe their world already. You see? So you start already initiating to teach language, initiating to teach mathematics, recognition of colors. No? During this time also, this is a period where there is a rapid development of language. They will pick up anything. They will pick up the word that you are actually telling them. If you want to teach them Arabic, they will learn Arabic quite easily during this period. If you would like to teach them in English, teach them or speak to them in English. It's very easy during the pre-operational stage. So the child can easily pick up everything already because they're trying to construct their own universe already. Okay? And there is really a very there is already a rapid development of language during this time. Okay? So you should understand that. The next stage that's actually very important is concrete operation stage, right? So the child goes to school already. They learn the basic of mathematics, the basic of everything. Okay? So always take note. During this time, they go to school, they learn the basic. Right? So in the concrete operation stage, mathematical operations will be developed. During this time, from 7, 8, they will learn how to multiply. Do not teach them when they are still before this, when they are still on this stage, no? On pre-operational stage. You teach them mathematics only when they are in concrete operations from 7 onward. You cannot say, my son is dumb because he cannot even multiply. But your son is still below 7. How can a son multiply when he is only 7? That could only be taught. In fact, in the preschool, they do not even speak. They do not even teach them. They do not even teach them mathematics. They just play. If we are going to visit this time, let's say a nursery, they do not teach anything there. Now, the most important thing that they are doing there would actually be to play, to develop relationship. No? They are not teaching mathematics. Mathematics is taught in the school when they are going in grade 1 already. You see? During concrete operations, they will be able to understand mathematics already. They will be able to write already. They will be able to recognize A, B, C, D, E, letters, combination of letters, combination of words. They will be able to write, no? Although during this time, they would like to learn 1 plus 1 equals 2. But they are having difficulty understanding hypothetical problems. They will not be able to solve problems. What if, what will you do? Do not teach them that way. Because during this time, they are actually going into more concrete operations, 1:1. So during this time, you give them the rule. You give them everything. But for hypothetical questions, no. You give them the facts that you would like them to learn. Right? So they are always, that's red is red, black is black. When you teach them that way, they will know. Right? Do not teach them about hypothetical problems because they will not be able to solve. So during this time, their concept revolves on what the teachers are teaching them, on what the parents are teaching them. What the parents and adults are actually telling them are regarded as truths. So do not joke around with people, with children who are during this stage, because they will easily believe you. You see? So something like it's a habit. So we have a habit now teaching children wrong concepts during this time. You know, something like we confuse them, and that will not be good. No. Next stage is more on thinking already. We call it formal operational thinkers. The child may be going to high school already, no, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 to high school, no, because this is starting from 12 years of age. So they can handle hypothetical problems. You can teach them ethics. You can teach them scenarios. You can teach them what if, because they will be able to think. They will be able to do critical thinking. They will be able to reason out using scientific reasoning. During this time also, you teach them the principles of scientific inquiry, because they are capable of doing that. No? Why the sky is blue? They will be able to find out. Yeah? Why the water is not solid? They will be able to find out. Why the light does not pass through opaque substances? They will be able to find out. All right? During this time, they will be able to think. Now, the formal thinker is capable of understanding and appreciating symbolic abstractions. Particularly, you'll teach them algebra already. You know, in mathematics, we use letters. Why is it that we use letters? Is it? So they will be able to understand that concept. So you will start teaching them trigonometry, physics, maybe, or chemistry during this time also. But before that, it's not. Before 12, it's very difficult, no? All right. They can also read. They may have literary criticism, as well as they will be able to recognize expressions, metaphors in literature. All right. So that is very important. So that's actually the 4 stages of human development according to Piaget. We have, I repeat, sensory motor stage from birth to 18 months to 2 years. Then we have pre-operational stage from 2 years to 7 years. Then we have already here in concrete operation, that's actually up to 10 years, then, or 11 years. Then on formal operation, this is actually from 12 years above. So this is actually the stages of development according to GMT. Okay, this is how we develop our thinking process. It's very crucial. So that's why I keep on telling my students, do not teach wrong concept to children when they are very young. We think that is fun. We think that we are actually making fun out of them, making joke out of them, but it's not right. Because children will believe on you, will believe what you are teaching to them. Because you're adult, they're children, and they're trying to conceptualize their own universe, their own world. So this is the reality. This is actually very important concept in psychology, where we understand the process of growth and development of a child. Now, moving forward, another very important concept of psychology is, or human development, is the one that is expounded by Sigmund Freud. We call his theory as psychosexual theory of development. In fact, Sigmund Freud is not even a psychologist. You know, Sigmund Freud is a physician. He was trying to be trained to be a psychiatrist. But the bottom line is, he's not a psychologist. He is a medical doctor trying to understand the symptomatology of the diseases that he is actually trying to study. In fact, he is under Brewer, no? Brewer taught him how to treat mental disorders. He is not a psychologist. Anyway, so this is actually Sigmund Freud. We are going to call his theory as psychosexual theory of development. Okay? So psychosexual, psychological and sexual, because you are going to find out that we are going to identify his 5 stages of development. It's pertaining to sexual development. No, these are all having some sort of reproductive connotation, like in the case of oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency stage, and genital stage. These are in proper order all his psychosexual theory of development. No. So let us try to look into what's happening. This is very important because most of the time I use his concept to understand people. Something like we have to frame our mind, trying to look into specific concepts so that we would like to understand other people. That's how we read people. That's how we try to understand people. That's how we advise people or we counsel people. You see, it's very important for us as psychologists to look into which stage of human development they are. Because during this time, we need to compare the supposed behavior that they would be displaying on that particular stage. Like in the case of oral states. Oral stage, we have to look into what is supposed to be the necessary behavior that can be observed to a person. During this time, it will be from birth up to 1.5 years to 2 years. As I mentioned here, 1.5 years means to say it's just like in cognitive development by Piaget, when we say 0 to 1.5 years, that will be around 18 months. Baby birth to walking, no? The child will start walking during this time also. When they reach 1.5 years, late development will be up to 2 years. Anyway, what is actually the focus of the child during this time? The focus will not be on anything other than the mouth. That's why we call it oral states. So you see how useful this stage is, how clever Sigmund Freud was in trying to develop his psychosexual theory of development. No, he started with the mouth because that's actually our focus of attention. Why? For survival. What is the connotation of the mouth? Food, food, food. Another one, of course, food is actually equated to pleasure. So we will come to learn later on that Sigmund Freud would always associate mouth with pleasure, would always associate his theory with pleasure. We try to look into his structures of personality, the id-ego and the superego. No? Particularly when we tackle the theories of personality. So the pleasure principle must be checked all the time. That's the reason why there is what we call as conscience. But come to think of it, he came out with oral states because he thought that the focus of development of an individual will be mouth. What does the mouth do? For feeding, eat. Another one, for crying. Of course, children would not be too emotional, as if when they cry, they cry. What is the reason why they are crying? There are only two things. We are not looking into emotion during this time. There are only two reasons why a child crying, and these are: number one, they are hungry, still going to mouth. Number two, pleasure. What is it? They are maybe wet. You see? They cannot actually tolerate the wet, no? Because the diaper is full of feces, or the diaper is actually full of urine already. So they may have discomfort, maybe they have pain. You see? That's always associated with pleasure. Right? Then teething, then biting, thumb sucking for human satisfaction. You see, this is normally the child, the reaction or behavior that we display when we have anxious, when we have anxiety. Regression, no? Regression is often associated with thumb sucking. Then of course, weaning. We try to remove the child from his overconcentration to milk, especially when we are breastfeeding. No, now the mouth and the breast are the center of all experiences of the child, because we center on the development of the child on the process of growth. We center on the development of the child on survival. Mouth is always associated with survival and pleasure. That's oral stage. We are going to look into that as we go on. Second stage, anal stage. Anus, mouth, then last. If you are taking something, it must be dispersed. It must be eliminated. Anal stage is for elimination. No? And what is the meaning of elimination. How do we associate elimination with human behavior? We would like child to control themselves. Because you see, if you're going to come to think of it, during oral stage, the child just eat and eat and eat and eat. They're trying to grow. But they shit everywhere. You know what I mean? They urinate on the bed. They pee on the sofa, maybe on your car. They also poo everywhere. Because they cannot hold their bowels still. They have no sense of discipline. Because that's what they are. Their main focus is the mouth, their main focus is survival, that's in the oral stage. Then on the next stage, anal stage, they will focus more on how to hold their bowel. So what is the meaning of holding the bowel? It will be more on discipline. That's why anal stage is associated now with discipline. During this time, we initiate toilet training. What is the meaning of this toilet training? We will always tell the child, do not poo here, do not poo everywhere. You buy them, in fact, a toilet training set. You put there. You're trying to tell the child that they cannot pee anywhere, they cannot poo anywhere. They must poo somewhere else on a designated place. If you bought them a toy, a toilet training seat or a toilet training toilet, then they must do that, or else they will go to the toilet. And that is going to happen when they are 1 to 3 years of age. We teach them how to do it. We teach them how to train themselves. That is more of associated to toilet training. Okay. Now, it's a lot of, during this stage, we have, it's has something to do with the poo or holding on or letting go. During this time also, the child may do a lot of bedwetting. You know, if you have a child at this stage, particularly during the first 1.5 years of life, our room would always smell like a pee because they pee everywhere, you know. So during this time, the next stage that we have to train them, we really would like them to have a little bit of discipline. We also teach them to hold, and we also teach them how to let go. This is actually very crucial, and this is very important because we are going to look into the reflection of how we develop a child on these stages on their development of personality when they are going to be adult. That's why Sigmund Freud specifically mentioned that the personality of a child could have been developed at the age of 7. During this stage, when the child try to or learn how to act properly, how to behave properly. Okay? Now, the bodily functions are the center of the world. How to urinate properly, how to poo and pee properly, and of course, the pivot around which early character is actually formed. The problem will be, you see, this is the thing, I keep on observing people around. If you ask them, they are on stroller. If you walk around in the department store, in the mall, there are children who are actually on strollers. You know, strollers? And when you are going to ask them how old they are 4 or 5 or 6 even. And you know what? What happened is that they are still even wearing a diaper. So what does it mean when they are actually still wearing a diaper? It's okay to defecate. It's okay to poo every time or any time you want to. You're tolerating them. There is a very big implication here when they become adults already. You see? They may do as they wish. You see? But when you are trying to let them hold on, you teach them discipline. During this time, at the age of 3, the child must not be wearing diaper already because they need to be on the right place. You see? And when the child will say, I want to pee, you hold on and you look for a toilet. They must not pee anywhere. So that's the thing. During this time, you teach them discipline. You see? So that when they will become adults, what happen will be they will follow all the rules and regulations. If you're going to teach them, if you're going to teach them properly, if you're going to handle the child properly during this stage, if you are going to handle them, the tendency is that you are developing a child who will be on the loose when they are actually going to get or to be an adult. These children may actually get easily disobey traffic rules, disobey their parents, disobey the rules that we have in the society. So this is the problem. Anal stage is associated always with discipline. I'll expound more about this as we go. So this is very important. No? The next stage is the phallic stage. As I mentioned to you also earlier, no? In social development, this is very important, wherein the child will be able to recognize the gender and sexuality. This is 3 to 6 years of age. The child will be asking so many questions about their gender already. They'll be able to compare why is it that this person has not none of this, right? They will be able to recognize, no, their own anatomy. This during the time of preschool years or nursery. This stage is focused on resolving reproductive issues. They will ask a lot of questions and do not just dismiss them. During this time, you teach them their anatomy. You teach them the function of their genitals because they should know. They're trying to identify their sexuality already. Remember gender role development also? They will be able to identify their sexuality already. They will be able to differentiate the difference between male and female. The difference, why is it that they have this and they don't have this? No? And during this time also, they will develop some sort of closeness with a parent who is opposite their gender. Okay? They will a little bit cool when they're going to do that. Like in the case of boys, I'm going to marry mom. They're going to tell that. No, they will develop some sort of Oedipus complex, no? And maybe they think about maybe kill dad because their dad is just some sort of a rival. There is a rivalry on the attention of the opposite gender parent. Girls would always some sort of leaning to the father. About 90% of the time, if I'm going to ask you whom you are going to be or whom you are close to with, I'm 100% sure that 90% of you would actually tell. If you are a female, you would always be, you see, you would always have a leaning on your father. But for boys, would always have a leaning on the mother. No? This is otherwise known as, for girls, electric complex. No? So we are going to discuss more about this as we go on. So far, so good, any question?
No, doctor.
Do you follow?
Yes.
If I may ask you, with whom you are very close to it right now, is your mother or father? Whenever you ask money, very
My
good.
mother.
Really?
Yeah, actually,
Maybe
both of them.
yeah, but most of the time we yeah, you try to observe yourselves. You flirt with your father, or for adults, no, for girls, something like they would show some sort of something like that. Now I will discuss to you about this as we go on. In similar way with boys, no, they would really have a very close association with their mother. When they ask money, they will not go to their father, they will go to the mother, They embrace the mother and they try to, to become sweet to them, and they'll ask what they want eventually from them. So that's the thing. So they can easily manipulate the opposite gender just because of that, no? So we'll discuss more about this when we tackle already the personality. The next stage is latency stage. This is 5 to 12 years of age. All right, early school. Now, this is in similar way on stage 3 of GMT, early school. No, the focus during this time will be learning skills. The focus of attention actually is diverted already. You know what? During this time, the more important figure in the life of a child will not be their parents. The more important figure will be their teachers. You notice that? They always say, teacher said, teacher said, teacher said. When there will be discussion at home, you would always say, teacher said, teacher said. Your parents may always go wrong, but your teachers will never go wrong. So this is very important during this stage. No? Early school, you go to school where whatever the teachers will tell you, it will be the truth. Because your focus will be on learning. Your focus will be on skill development. Your focus will be on your schoolwork. It's very important. It's very crucial that we have to understand that. No? Experiences as a fears and conditioning from the previous stages would have already shaped many of the children's feelings and attitudes. And eventually, this will resurface in the next stage. No? Genital stage. So, more or less, nothing much significant happens here except that the focus of attention will be on learning. They go to school. You notice 5 to 12 years of age. There are other advocates that children as early as 3 would go to school. I don't advocate that, but most of the time, there are schools that are actually accommodating 3 years of age. That's nursery. And that's too young. They should go to school at the age of 5. No? When, if you're going to look at the stage of development, the child will actually start learning based on this. And the leaning will actually be deviated or diverted from parents to teachers already. Then it will be resurfaced eventually on the next stage. The genital stage, this is where you belong, 11 to 18 years old age. Actually, on Sigmund Freud's theory of psychosexual development, we have only 5 stages. So remember this: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital in that particular order. So let's try to take a look on genital stage. That is 11 to 18 years of age. Your puberty, tense already. You are already on your teens. No? When do you start becoming a teenager, ladies and gentlemen? Let me see. When do you call yourselves teenagers?
At the age of 13.
Very good. And you stop becoming a teenager at the age of?
13.
18 also. Start at the age of 13, then stop at the age of 19. As long as there is teen at the end, no? That's the reason why you call it teenagers. It's very crucial. Now, but looking into the development of Sigmund Freud, it's more than 10, so 11 years, you're already on your teenage stage. Now, something actually is going on in your body. Something is actually going on in your cycle, right? You're becoming an adolescent. For ladies, it may even be earlier, maybe even 10. When you have your own, you know what I mean already, no? So boys start, this is actually very funny also. During this time, when boys will start treating their mothers as maid, all right? Woman servants, you know, because during this time, boys are a little bit messy, you know? We don't care about the room. When they go home, they are just like snakes, no? They remove their clothes and toss it everywhere. Who will follow them? Mothers. In the morning or any time, who will actually feed them? Mother. Mother prepares everything. So the mother is a servant, is a woman servant. I believe it's actually true also. Something like it's going on at home, even ladies, no? All right. Then during this time also, it goes back, as I mentioned to you, on genital states. This is actually very true during the phallic states, but it actually reappears on genital states where girls would always be extra, flirting with their fathers because they ask something, they base them in public. Likewise for boys, they would always have some sort of extra attention with the mothers. And most of the time, girls would always argue with the mother during this time. You argue a lot with the mother, no? And you don't argue with the father. You notice that? This is otherwise known as, for girls, Electra complex, and for boys, it's called Oedipus complex. I will tell you the story of Oedipus and Electra. Why is it that Sigmund Freud came out with these terms, explaining the strange relationship, the strange emotional connection of the two, of boys and girls, to their parents. No, so I'm going to mention that next meeting. I think we uh, we will continue next meeting. I'll try to finish this because it's already heavy tackling Sigmund Freud. No, so I'll tackle Eric Erikson next meeting and try to compare. So two very important human development theories of human development that we discussed today: that of Eric Erikson, that of Sigmund Freud, and that of Jan Piaget. No, so I think we will stop here. I'll discuss more about this, about Sigmund Freud, next meeting, particularly his Oedipus complex and his Electra complex. Do you have any question? I think after next meeting, we will be on 2 weeks break, right? Because that will be your examination, isn't it? There will be no lectures by next week, right? I don't think we need a lecture next week. You want a lecture next week during your examination?
No.
Yeah, I'll let you study, no? I'll try to do good in my in all your subjects because the first year is very crucial. It's a make or break period of your study time. Is there any questions so far?
No, thank you, doctor.
All right. So if I were you, I will start studying. Right. I will start reading so that I will understand more about the concepts that we have. You have the book. I give you the book. So please try to read. No, I don't want that next time you're going to tell, oh, the question is not in the PowerPoint.
Doctor?
Yes.
Sorry. Doctor, don't you have like mock quiz or an
Sample
exercise
questions?
for your
sample
questions?
questions. I'll try to think about that. Maybe next week I'll try to see. Maybe next meeting I'll try to show to you some questions
Yes,
so that
try.
you can think. No, maybe
So
one or
we
two
can
questions
just know
I will
how.
show you.
Okay.
Yeah, I will choose the one that you are going to think about in order to answer it. Sometimes the choices will be very difficult. You know why? Because the choices could actually be always correct, 1 to 5. Have you encountered questions like that?
Wow, doctor, no, please.
But there are questions that are actually once that you read it, you can easily identify the answers. But of course, I will include, because there is a rule. I would like you to understand that. Now, there is a rule that we have to follow in giving examination. We call it 30, 30, 40. Are you familiar with that?
No.
30, 30, 40. If you have 10 questions, 3 questions will be very easy. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, out of 10, only 3 will be easy?
No, 3 will be moderate. All right? So 6. And then 4 will be difficult. So 30, 30, 40%. Yeah. So that's actually the rule that we follow.
Thank you,
Yeah?
doctor. Thank you.
Okay.
Best of luck.
So, yeah, best of luck to all of you. Have a good day, everyone. For your attendance, will you please try to write your ID number, 2 digits only at the end, and then you're good to go. Okay? Have a good day.